The divorce papers felt like silk between my fingers. Smooth, expensive, final. It was 2:17 p.m. on a Thursday when I slid them across our marble kitchen counter, the same counter where we'd shared coffee every morning for 8 years. My husband's face went through 5 distinct emotions in 3 seconds. Confusion, relief, calculation, smugness, and finally, when I placed the second envelope down, pure, beautiful panic. "What's that?" he asked, his voice cracking on the last word. I smiled. "Your eviction notice." The worst part wasn't watching $340,000 of our savings disappear into another woman's address. It was knowing he thought I was too stupid to notice. 3 months earlier, I was the wife who made everything work. I managed our rental properties, all 7 of them, while working full-time as a real estate paralegal. I knew property law the way some people know their favorite songs. Every clause, every loophole, every clause that protects you when someone tries to screw you over. My husband, let's call him Greg, worked in corporate finance. He wore expensive suits and said things like optimizing liquid assets and strategic portfolio diversification. He made good money. I made good money. Together, we'd built something that should have been unshakable. Our system was simple: joint checking for household expenses, joint savings for investments, separate accounts for personal spending. Transparent, equal, or so I thought. The first red flag came on a Tuesday night in January. I was reviewing our quarterly investment statements, something I did religiously, when I noticed a wire transfer. $50,000 moved from savings to checking, then withdrawn in cash the next day. "What's this?" I asked, pointing to the statement. Greg barely looked up from his laptop. "Business opportunity. I'm getting in on a commercial property deal. Should triple the investment in 18 months. "Which property?" "You wouldn't know it. It's through my network." His tone had that edge that said, "Drop it." I didn't drop it. I just stopped asking out loud. I'm a paralegal specializing in real estate transactions. I know how to search property records, trace financial transactions, and recognize when someone's lying about business investments. It took me 6 days to find the truth. The county assessor's website is public record. Anyone can search it if they know what they're looking for. I started with recent transactions, filtered by date, and cross-referenced them with our bank statements. On day 3, I found it. A property purchased for $425,000 in late January. The buyer's name made my blood stop moving. Brittany Wolf. I didn't know that name, but I knew our bank account was suddenly $340,000 lighter. 2 more days of searching revealed the full picture. Brittany Wolf, 28, marketing coordinator at Greg's firm. The down payment on her new 3-bedroom house, with the white picket fence and the garden she'd posted all over social media, with captions like, "Dreams come true" and "Blessed beyond measure," came from our joint savings account. My hands shook as I compiled the evidence. Bank statements going back 6 months, the property deed, screenshots of her Instagram posts, including one where you could see Greg's watch, the Rolex I'd given him for his 40th birthday, in the reflection of her champagne glass. I organized everything into a 52-page document with tabs, highlights, and a table of contents. I'm thorough when I'm angry. I waited until Friday night. Greg came home at 7:30 p.m., loosening his tie, whistling something tuneless. He kissed my cheek, actually kissed my cheek, and asked what was for dinner. "We need to talk," I said. I watched his shoulders tense. That micro-expression, that tiny flinch. He knew. On some level, he'd been waiting for this. I laid the printed document on the table between us. "Want to tell me about your business investment?" He didn't touch the papers. "What are you talking about?" The $340,000 you transferred to your girlfriend so she could buy a house. The silence lasted exactly 7 seconds. I counted. It's not what you think, he finally said. It's a property deed, Greg. It's exactly what I think. It's complicated. There are tax implications. Stop! My voice came out sharper than I intended. I'm a real estate paralegal. I've read the documents. There are no tax advantages. There's no business structure. You bought your mistress a house with our money and put it in her name. His face shifted, the mask coming off. Our money? I earned most of that. You think managing a few rental units compares to what I do? There it was, the truth under all those years of partnership. Those rental units, I said quietly, are in my name. All 7 of them. Remember? You said it was better for liability purposes. You insisted. Something flickered in his eyes. Not quite afraid yet, but getting there. He tried everything over the next 3 weeks. First came the apologies. He'd made a mistake. He'd been confused. It wasn't an affair. She was just a friend in need, and he'd wanted to help her. He'd been planning to tell me. He'd pay it all back. Then came the bargaining. We could work through this. Marriage was about forgiveness, couples therapy. He'd cut off all contact with her. We could start over. When those didn't work, he tried gaslighting. Was I sure I'd read the documents correctly? Maybe I was being paranoid. Had I considered that my job stress was making me see things that weren't there? I let him talk. I said very little. I was busy. During those 3 weeks, I consulted with 4 different attorneys, not just divorce lawyers, real estate attorneys, forensic accountants, litigation specialists. I wanted to understand every possible angle, every vulnerability, every option. I also did something else. I had all 7 rental properties professionally appraised. Combined current value, $2.8 million. Remaining mortgage debt, $890,000. Equity, $1.91 million, all in my name. The rental income, about $11,000 per month after expenses, went into our joint account, which we used for household bills and savings. But the properties themselves, the assets that had appreciated $600,000 over the past 8 years, those were mine. Greg had insisted on that structure when we first got married. Liability protection, he'd said. If something goes wrong with one of my investments, they can't touch the real estate. I'd agreed because it made sense, because I trusted him. Funny how these things work out. My attorney, a woman named Beatrice who wore red lipstick and had a reputation for never losing, laid it out clearly. In this state, she said, property acquired during marriage is generally community property, regardless of whose name is on the title. But, she held up a finger, property that one spouse brings into the marriage, or property acquired with separate funds, can remain separate property if properly documented. The rentals were purchased before we got married, I said. All 7. And he never contributed to the mortgages? The rental income covered the mortgages. I managed everything. He wasn't involved. Beatrice smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Then those properties are your separate property. He has no claim to them. However, the rental income generated during the marriage, that's community property. It went into your joint account, which he used to fund his girlfriend's house. So what do I do? You file for divorce. You claim your separate property. And you demonstrate that he misappropriated community funds, funds you contributed to, for an extramarital affair. She leaned forward. But here's where it gets interesting. Where does he live? In one of my properties, the main house. Your separate property. Yes. Then he's technically your tenant, and if you're divorcing him and he's no longer family, you can begin eviction proceedings. That's when I understood what justice could look like. I filed for divorce on a Monday morning. Greg was served at his office. I made sure of that. I wanted his colleagues to see it. I wanted Brittany to hear about it. He came home that night furious, papers crumpled in his fist. "You're claiming the rentals as separate property? After everything we built together?" "We didn't build them together. I bought them before we married. You never contributed to the mortgages. You said yourself you wanted nothing to do with managing properties. The income went to our joint accounts, which you stole from to buy your girlfriend a house." His face was red now, actual red. "That's going to be your argument? I'll fight this. I'll get half of everything." "You're welcome to try." I kept my voice level. "You'll spend about $80,000 in legal fees, and you'll lose. But sure, fight it." He stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. "When did you become such a bitch?" "Around the time you stole $340,000 to impress a woman 10 years younger than me." He didn't leave that night, or the next night. He stayed in the guest room, sleeping in my property, eating food bought with my money, using utilities I paid for. I let him stay for exactly 1 week. Then I had him served again. Back to that Thursday at 2:17 p.m. The eviction notice sat on the counter between us like a coiled snake. "You can't evict me," Greg said, but his voice had no conviction. "This is my home. This is my property. We're getting divorced. You're no longer family. You're a tenant, and I'm giving you 30 days' notice to vacate." "I'll fight this too." "On what grounds? The property is in my name. We're legally separating. I don't want you living in my house. You have no lease, no rental agreement, and no legal right to stay." I picked up the papers, tapped them straight. "I had 3 different attorneys review this. It's airtight." His face cycled through those emotions again, landing finally in panic. "Where am I supposed to go?" "I don't know, Greg. Maybe your girlfriend has room?" "Oh, wait," I pretended to think. "She only has 3 bedrooms, and one of them's an office. And didn't she post something about her mother moving in? That might be awkward." "You planned this." Not a question, an accusation. "Yes," I met his eyes. "Did you think I wouldn't? You thought I was stupid. You thought I managed your properties and paid your bills and organized your life because I had nothing better to do. You forgot that I'm good at this. Really good." "What about the money I put into savings over the years? The community property? The joint assets?" I smiled. "Well, you took $340,000 for yourself, so we'll split the remainder. You'll get about $75,000 after legal fees and penalties for the misappropriated funds. Of course, that's before your lawyer's costs." I watched him do the math, watched him realize what he'd done. He'd traded a marriage, a home, and access to nearly $2 million in real estate equity for a woman he'd have to explain this disaster to, and about $75,000 in cash. "The worst part," I said quietly, "is that if you'd just asked for a divorce honestly, you would have walked away with so much more. But you got greedy, and you underestimated me." Greg moved out on day 29. I wasn't there when he left. I didn't want to see it. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. He didn't contest the property division. His lawyers told him not to waste the money. He got his $75,000. I kept the rentals, the equity, and the steady income stream. Brittany Wolf still has her house. I'm not vindictive enough to come after her. She didn't steal from me. Greg did. She was just the fool who believed his promises. I heard through mutual friends that their relationship didn't survive the fallout. Turns out, a man who steals from his wife to impress you isn't great long-term relationship material. Shocking, I know. 6 months after everything was finalized, I did something I'd been dreaming about since before the marriage fell apart. I bought an 8th property, a duplex near the university. Great bones, excellent location, needed some work. I renovated it myself. Well, I hired contractors, but I managed every detail. New kitchen, refinished floors, modern fixtures. I poured myself into that project the way I'd once poured myself into my marriage. When it was finished, I stood in the empty living room, sunlight streaming through the new windows, paint still drying on the walls, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Pride. Pure, uncomplicated pride in something I'd built alone. My phone buzzed. A text from my attorney. The final settlement check cleared. It's officially over. Congratulations on your freedom. I looked around the duplex, my duplex, and thought about Greg living in some rental apartment, explaining to date why his ex-wife owned all the property, why he'd lost everything over a misunderstanding. The land beneath his feet had never been his. He'd just been allowed to stand on it. And when he forgot that, when he mistook my generosity for weakness and my trust for stupidity, the ground disappeared. I locked up the duplex and walked to my car. I had a property manager's meeting in an hour, then showings at 2 of my rentals, then drinks with friends who'd supported me through everything. My calendar was full. My properties were thriving. My future was mine. And somewhere across town, in a house that cost $340,000 but earned him nothing, I hoped Greg was finally learning the difference between an investment and a mistake. The sunset painted the sky orange and gold as I drove home. To my home, the one I owned, the one with my name on every document. I smiled. Justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's just the quiet click of a door lock, the rustle of papers being signed, and the knowledge that you played the long game better than anyone thought you could. And sometimes, just sometimes, it's watching someone realize, far too late, that the person they underestimated owned everything all along.